Hello and welcome back to Learn It from a Layman. I am Carl Christensen. I'm joined by Matt, and we might be joined by Cameron later, but we'll find out. Maybe he's learning more about today's subject and going to bring some really useful knowledge at the end. We'll compare notes. Today, though, we're going to talk about learn it from what? I don't know what I'm saying. Matt, help me. We are going to.
There's only so much help I can give you here.
Okay, that's fair.
We are going to layman it from learning.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to talk about competition, and we're going to talk about the basics of good competition, what competition, the benefits of competition are, and maybe some downsides of competition. But specifically, and this is going to lead us in and then also take us out. I have started a business, and I need all of you that are listening, and I know that there are lots of people that listen. Go ahead, jump on the TruRace.com. That's the true without an E. So the TRURACE.com. Don't worry, I'm not trying to take your money. Um, it is a competition website for racing, like running and biking and triathlons and that kind of stuff. So I'm really in the competitive mindset right now because of my new business, and we'll talk a little bit about what my business does and why it's what the impetus was after we talk about kind of competition as a kind of nebulous concept. Sound good, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, they can do that, or they can go to my website, the even better racingwebsite.com, trademark, and, well, never mind.
Okay. Yes, in that vein, then let's talk a little bit about why competition is good. There are some downsides about competition, so we'll talk about those, and then we'll bring it home with a little bit of information specifically about this idea of competitive racing and why I thought that was worthwhile to do in a business. So competition, something everyone has familiarity with, and it can be very beneficial. Some people view themselves as competitive people. Others view themselves as non-competitive. However, as a general rule, people do better when competition is structured and fair. It brings out better performances. So let's talk about that. So the first thing is fair competition. If you feel like you're in a rat race, like uh, you were not, you know, you didn't sign up for this and you're being raced against your will, uh, that's not going to bring out any positive sentiment. It's not going to increase your productivity, any of those types of things. So it has to feel fair and voluntary. And that's a big part of it. So you have to, it goes for your job, school, whatever you're involved in. If you feel like you are being uh, compelled to compete, it's going to bring out negative sentiment and emotions that will actually work against you. So if you can bring a positive mindset, a idea that this is fair and voluntary, even if it isn't as voluntary as you would like it to be if you're a student at school, consider the alternatives and the idea of voluntary can have different levels, right?
Well,
Maybe you
and
didn't sign
consider
up
the
for it.
correct alternative. I mean, the alternative to going to school against your will could be like staying at home and playing video games, but, the correct alternative is, uh,
Not being a productive member
not
of
getting an
society.
education, not
Yeah,
earning lots of money because you've increased your earning potential.
exactly.
There's yeah, you have to have the correct competitive bent when you're looking at
Exactly.
these things.
Right, and that matters. Like, Matt, obviously you've done competitions in the past, both physical and then school related. And when you have a good attitude going in and you feel like it's well framed, uh, it's just generally a good experience. I'd imagine for you as well.
Yes, let's just say that's correct.
If it feels fair. Okay, well, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to make it feel fair. But
Yeah.
let's talk about what the benefits can be. So one of the
Okay.
obvious ones. Sorry, were you saying something, Matt?
No, just okay. I am
Okay,
in accordance with your plan here. I'm not
quite.
competing with you to
Okay.
try to make a better plan.
Okay. So increased motivation. This one I think goes without saying. Honestly, like competition. even poorly structured, often does raise motivation. Um, it can, anyway, so
That is not an excuse for event organizers to have poor structure, by the way.
it is not. Like I said, we'll talk about a few of the negatives and how you have to watch out for those if you are an event organizer or a teacher or whatever it might be, and you have competition going on. But increased motivation is absolutely one of the reasons you do competitions, right? The goal makes things exciting, gives you a clear payoff. People train harder, prepare more, and are more consistent if there's competition involved. So that's benefit number one. There is sharper focus. Um, Once again, if you know that someone else is trying to achieve the same goal and has the same tool set, then you know that you have to use your tools and your talents to the best of your ability to achieve it sooner than they. Um, and so people train harder. They It becomes wanting to improve yourself, and that creates that focus that really makes you more attentive to what where you're losing time, where you're losing efficiency, that type of stuff.
Hmm.
Okay, then
No, and that's a little bit like this is one of the things that actually matters when you consider how to make competition be worthwhile. Because you have some people, like me, who actually relish the idea of competing against people that are just not going to give me good competition. Because I like the idea of this will be a shoe in, I will
the,
just
the
win,
the beat down,
that kind of
right?
stuff.
Yeah,
And that's a very tempting and comforting mindset to be in, and yet,
right,
even I, at the peak of my laziness, recognize that that's not actually going to get me anywhere. And so,
right,
but recognizing that that is a tendency and realizing that no, indeed, you have to not give in to that and
right.
actually seek the
Push
competition
yourself.
that other people are taking seriously, that are going to give you actual competition. That's part
Yeah,
of what makes it worthwhile.
absolutely. And that tendency of like I want a beat down is like ego related more than it is you know focus,
Either that
right?
or a masochistic related, like, depending on which direction you think the beatdown is gonna
I mean,
go.
that's fair.
The
That's
way
fair.
you said that was funny.
And that will actually come back to when we talk about the true race later.
It doesn't have
Um,
to come back.
oh, it does. Uh,
Anyway,
okay. Um, it builds resilience. Competition. Once again, going back to and if you're looking for specific statistics, which is something I love bringing to this podcast, I promise we have them. We're going to talk about specific examples of how these actually bring, are borne out in studies and research. So give me just a second. Um, Build resilience, the idea that when you lose, there is that disappointment. You've got to learn how to deal with it, and you've got to get back up and try again. And so competition has to be cyclical. It has to be you've got to be able to lose and come back and try again, and that's that the competitive cycle really is what improves your abilities. Um, Okay, it obviously reveals your strengths and weaknesses. If you are not competing, it is really easy to fall into the trap of I'm good at the things I'm good at, and I'm not good at the things I'm not good at, and I'm cool with that. And being able to overcome that often involves having to compare yourself to those around you. Once again, there are negatives about that. We'll talk about that, but with a good mindset, being able to realize, okay, this is my strength, this is my weakness, I'm going to work on my weakness, I'm going to refine my strength. Those types of things are absolutely an important and positive role of competition when framed correctly.
well,
Um,
and to elaborate a little on that, eh, if we're talking about strength and weakness, generally that implies some kind of comparison. And if you're not doing any kind of comparison, to be honest, you don't actually know if you have a strength or a weakness. You just have things that you do, but you may not know whether or not you do it well. You
Fair,
may have an idea that, why, yes, I am the best at this, whatever it is that you're trying,
right?
but you could be terrible at it. Um,
Yes.
the reverse is also a possibility, although it never goes that way, but it's a possibility.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You have
but yeah,
to.
without
You're,
checking, it's I one of the things that I compete in is scale modeling, the highest form of human competition that's out there. Um, and I've learned a lot about how good or not I am at this just by actually entering competitions. Yes, there are competitions for that. They do exist, and as I mentioned, they're among the most noble forms that a person can compete in.
That's what I've read.
Um,
Yeah.
but having done that, I've seen where some of my strengths and some of my weaknesses are, and I actually have a much better idea of how to make my hobby a little more enjoyable just from doing that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It adds something to it. It adds that emotional factor, and that's strong. Like, obviously, sometimes it's negative emotion if it's, like, the frustration of losing, but that emotional attachment to the thing that you're competing in, creates creates a risk reward that is meaningful in your mind, and is anyway. So, okay, where were we at here? Strengths and weaknesses, right? That reminded me of my daughter recently told me what her she came in and told me, Dad, I got a 767 on my reading test. Like, I don't that is absolutely meaningless. Like, so that's the idea of, without her putting it in context of what other students got or what that means as a like graded scale. um, that's you can't know what a score test a test score means without putting it in context of some type of competition, uh, or putting it on a scale, which is competition. So, um,
right.
yeah. Let's see a couple other ones here. So one of the big ones that I think people often overlook is the sense of community that is created in competition. Um, and I think often we view it in kind of this negative light of our rivals and people that we want to beat them. But I know that from, for example, my high school experience, when I was competing every week or every other, against water polo players or swimmers, and I got to know my closest rivals, like the ones I wanted to beat. We actually became friends. We would like do like we'd see each other before the race, and I knew that was he was the guy I was gunning for. Like, and so it creates this community of like, okay, we are struggling to both achieve something, and I want to beat him in so doing. Um, but like, there is this meaningful community that comes from competing.
Now, you don't
Okay,
have to become friends with your rivals. You can just make them
you
your
don't.
enemies. But, in general, I tend to agree with Carl's experience that um, intense competition does not have to mean uh, any kind of like interpersonal conflict. Not if it's done the right way, and not if you're focused on, you know, most of our discussion has been competition centered around bettering oneself.
Right.
And if that is your focus, then yeah, you can absolutely have intense competition without rivalry, anger, spite, rage, all of the things that I feel at the scale modeling meets. So anyway,
Yeah, honestly, and some of that, like that, those feelings of like, uh, I think a lot of people that are in the sports world think about like 90s or 80s basketball and stuff like that, when they seemed like the people in the NBA really did hate each other. If they weren't on your team, you wanted to not just beat them, but like actually physically beat them. Um, and there was like this nostalgia towards it, which I can respect the idea that, once again, we're competing, therefore there's no love lost. But like, the reality is, as you create this community of we're both trying to be the best basketball players we are, and we interact frequently without actually animus, like I don't, then we actually do see each other as, peers, and we have so many similarities that it's like, okay, I want to beat you when we're actually in the race or in the game or whatever it might be, but we have shared goals. We have a lot in common. So that creates that community of like, I understand you, even if I do want to beat you. So, um, but yeah, okay. Um, we'll talk a little bit about businesses near the end, but there's a few business related ones. Um, But let's move on to statistics. This was something, like I said, I wanted people to be able to, because talking about them, the ideas kind of nebulously and just naming positive sides, it's like, well, okay, that's your opinion. The numbers bear these things out. So, um, a randomized control trial of an online fitness program found that social comparison increased class attendance by about 90%. So comparison groups average 1.9 classes to one class of the non-comparison group. So if you wanted to see where you stood against others, people doubled their class attendance at an online fitness program. So when you can see that other people are also trying, when it becomes public and ranked, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I got to care. I got to do something about this. And suddenly 90% attendance increase based just on um, the comparative competitive factor. So that's
Yeah.
in
Mm,
fitness.
keeping records and tracking who's who, putting up a
Exactly, and
leaderboard.
and, and making
Yep.
that public,
Yep.
right? So they can see it, and it's like, okay, society cares. I got to do something. Um, Different idea, but
Society cares about your fitness.
exactly. Well, society can see what I'm doing.
Yes.
um, Workplace step count competition. The competition group walked about 1,000 more steps per day than the control group, the ones that weren't competing. So 10% more on average increased just by putting two groups both saying we're gonna walk and we're gonna count steps, and but one of the groups was competing to see who was gonna win, and the other one was just count your steps, and the ones that were competing on average across the whole group 10% more steps. Um, so
So these things sound like they're, and you can edit this question out if there isn't a good answer to it. Are you going to talk about any of the potential negatives that come with this,
yes,
or are
yes,
there any? Okay, cool.
there are. Yes, there are, and it depends on a few factors. So yes, that's absolutely worth mentioning because I know a lot of people feel like competition can be toxic, and they're not wrong. It can be toxic. It's just a question of how it's framed and
Yeah,
how what we're incentivizing and the types of behavior that we're trying to improve. So um,
yeah.
yeah, okay. But that the step count competition study or was specifically using just symbolic prizes. So literally just like, oh, you got first. You get a gold star, or
Yeah,
nothing. They weren't giving cash. They were just. It's just that societal pressure. It's just the pressure that psychological pressure of I'm in a competition. It doesn't matter that I'm not getting anything. I'm in a competition. And
right.
so that's measuring the competition itself, not the cash reward incentive, if that makes sense. So, um, let's see. And so a similar idea is web-based competition. So the same type of thing, but this is not in a work group. It's actually in um, a just online groups. Um, and reporting it online and having a kind of a feedback loop helped increase step counts. But as soon as the web platform added competition, once again, same type of thing that you saw in the work group is suddenly, boom, a significant step increase in all groups. So yeah, um, okay. Let's talk about a few other really interesting statistics. Um, So sport participation, this is the one once again that made me, I've been thinking about the TruRace concept for a long time, for years now, but the studies really seem to bear out what I had been experiencing myself, and that's in competition in sports, there were some of the reported benefits were improved self-esteem, better social interaction, and less depression. Um, and
Interesting.
yeah, which you would once again, if it's the idea that like, okay, well, it's toxic, you would expect potentially more depression, maybe less self-esteem, because in a competition you obviously have more losers than you have winners.
Yeah.
um, It is not borne out in the studies. Once again, I think it does matter, though, how the competition is framed and the type of competition we have going on. If you see yourself as a perpetual loser and without the possibility of winning, then yes, that's going to have outcomes that are not positive. But um,
Of course, if you're, doing competition that and you're doing it the right way, that might help you not see yourself as a perpetual loser. So,
right.
is what I'm getting out of this too.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It, being able to say, have that focus of I'm improving, I'm actually getting to be better, even if you're not winning your competitions, you like psychologically aware that like I'm actually improving, like I'm getting better, which has the benefits of increased self-esteem independent of the competition outcome. So
Well,
there
and
are
it
the
seems like you're touching on kind of a key point that divides productive competition from negative or toxic competition, and it's the focus on I'm getting better. Because I had when I was swimming, there were some people that I considered my rivals.
Mhm,
Um, One of them I was neck and neck with. The other ones I was realistically never going to catch.
right,
And I knew that. They knew that. And that's okay. And if I'd focused on the competition of, well, I have to beat this guy this time, I was never going to get there. And that would have ended up being, well, I was just never going to get there. And
right,
focusing on that would have prevented me from doing as well as I did.
right.
Focusing on the rivals that I was close to, and even more focusing on just beating my best time,
Mhm.
is what really drove me to actually, um, you know, do as well as I did, and I did pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, for
The
sure.
other thing that really motivated me was Choco Taco, but that's probably outside the scope of this podcast, so whatever.
Probably beyond the scope. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a couple of things that you said, like when you're focusing on rivals that are achievable. Um, time, I think every athlete that's either swum, cycled, or ran competitively at any level knows, okay, I really care about my time, and as you move in from being a high school or collegiate athlete into kind of adult events, that becomes the only focus, and that has been why TruRace uh, is was one of like, competition against rivals still matters. Just because I'm in a race doesn't mean I'm actually racing. Um, if I actually have rivals that I know I can beat, and we're it is achievable, then psychologically it changes the way we perform, and that's the idea behind TruRace, is that I want you in a band against people that you could beat or you could lose to, depending on how well you apply yourself, and that's the impetus and the motivation that increases more than just your time, because of course your time's still going to matter. Absolutely. That's this underlying idea of, okay, well, I lost the race, but I dropped, 20 seconds in my 5K. That's huge. Um, so, that type of thing, they're related, but in adult competition, particularly beyond the high school or collegiate level, we often lose touch with the idea that we're competing for a win. It's just, oh, I'm trying to drop my time. Psychologically, they're related, but they're both important. And so, let's talk before we talk a little bit more about the TruRace. Let's talk about the some of the other benefits of a competition, specifically in work and in school. Um, it said in a field experiment summarized by the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that competitive incentives affected both whether people kept working and how hard they worked. Non-competitive conditions, about 58% worked longer than the minimum required time, but fewer than 10% worked all the way to the maximum time. So obviously, when you are not being competing against anything, the motivation at work is, well, am I checking the box? Am my employer going to be okay with what I'm doing? As soon as you add the motivation, so the field experiment found that adding a tournament prize increased work time and effort by over 80% and reduce the cost of output by a third, more than a third. So as soon as the work went from am I checking the box to this is a competition, and once again this is one of those things that can turn into rat race, negative outcome. I feel like I'm being forced to do this. Um, it depending on how the business frames it. But if you can frame it as this is a healthy competition, this is not going to affect your long-term, success of this company. We just want to, incentivize good behavior, and we're going to, maybe we do give a $50 gift card to the winner, but everyone's going to benefit, and we're just happy that you're competing. Um, if you can frame it correctly, then suddenly the work work changes its whole mindset, and 80% increased time and effort, and the price of output for whatever they were producing across a bunch of fields dropped by more than a third. So
Huh.
competition, as it turns out, as
Makes your business more profitable.
it turns out it does. Some would say that this is capitalism. Um, and we could talk a long time about politics of this, but I'm not interested in the politics of it right now. I'm
I'm
interested in the
glad.
hard statistics, that the competition can be beneficial all by itself. So, and let's see what is one of the school I thought interesting statistics. It said a field experiment compared two scholarship competition designs. One was a top performers overall, um, and that tournament lowered test scores and motivation. So once again, like if it was just okay, we have two scholarship competitions. One is just fully based on top performers, and that group as a whole scored lower in their tests and ranked their motivation as lower, especially
Hmm.
for the ones obviously at the bottom part of the group. They knew they never had a chance. But in a bin-based tournament where students competed against others with similar baseline scores, they did not have those negative effects, and there's a strong correlation between then fairness. So, like when the students felt I'm competing against other people at my level, there in order for this incentive, I'm going to they get better test scores. They're more motivated to try, where as opposed to we're going to bucket you all together, and the best ones are going to win. And
Yeah.
then
Hmm.
obviously the ones that know that they are not at the top level, they what is their incentive to try? They have none. So in school, that absolutely matters. Um, one or two other school ones here. Uh, a visible learning summary of meta-analysis reports that cooperative learning with intergroup competition had an effect size of 0.56 in a meta-analysis. Essentially, what uh, even when we're trying to cooperate, um, if a group is competing against another group, the effect of the competition between groups is also very large. The effect size of essentially a 50% increase in group behavior. Like the whole group is motivated by competing against another group. Teams and classes competing against other teams are going to work better than every student by themselves. So this competitive aspect translates from individuals to groups. So again, if I feel like I'm in a group that's competing against another group, um, everyone leans in and gives it more effort. And so once again, competition at the school level when I'm in groups is probably going to be better than individual competition if we have no way to put stratify students like we were talking about before. Um, let's see. Uh, all right. Any questions about those, Matt? I think I have one or two more, but then I'm going to move back to the
Did
true
did
race.
somebody else join us here? I believe
Yeah, I think
somebody else
Cameron's on
did.
now. Cameron,
Okay.
can you hear us?
We'll assume yes.
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. Sorry, I was muted because I didn't, want to be loud or anything.
Oh, you're good. Sounds great. Um, okay, we're talking, Cameron, about competition in general, but specifically right now, I'm talking about the benefits of school competition, and now I'm going to move to business and workplace competition. I've talked a little bit about that. Um, but I'm
Like,
going to talk about.
yeah, you touched on that.
Yeah, I did, and the business ones. There are a couple others, and these ones are going to make a sense to. I know there's a lot of salespeople out there. As it turns out, sales teams are very competition based,
They
and
are. They
so
most certainly
yeah,
are. I
yeah.
have
So
worked on a few.
right, and it can. This is once again, it can feel toxic if it feels like the only way to make a living wage is to compete my tail off. And if I don't, I'm going to lose my job. Once again, then we start working in kind of this environment where it's a rat race and there are very negative feelings involved. So this can become, I think, very problematic if your sales team is incentivized in a way that is not closely controlled and positively reinforced. Um, but once again, talking about the competitive success before we hit the negatives here, Harvard Business School field experiment found that positive sales incentive condition increase sales by 24%. Um, so once again, that there's money on the line there. So it isn't just like, oh, it's just competition. It's also the incentive of money. But it is, as we've seen before, it is both together that obviously give us the biggest result. Um, and let's see, a competition policy review found that 10% increase in price markups was associated in 1 to 3% or 1.6% loss in total productivity growth. So when firms, so companies have more pricing power and less competition, productivity drops. So that's the idea of monopoly in business, right? So when a particular top performer gets too much power,
Or
th-
it's like, almost like complacency.
exactly.
Because,
That
you're in charge, you can set the price, the whatever, and so, yeah, we can work. Maybe we
right,
don't work super hard, but,
right. And if I can take more money from you without doing extra work, I'm going to do that. So that's the monopoly competition. When competition suffers, productivity and incentives are gone. Suddenly, it's I can do what I want. Um, okay.
which, to be fair, is the goal for most no, sorry, that's
Okay, let's talk about a couple of the negatives, and then we'll move back to the positives to finish up with the TruRace. Um, so, negatives of competition. Once again, it can work against weaker participants. And that's the idea of a low performing student or employee might think, I can't win, why try? Um, and so that's if you feel like you are not in a position, you're never put in a position to succeed, um, then yeah, it's not actual competition. It is competition in name only, right? It's like, well, we're all going to try to win when only these three people have a chance to win, and the rest of y'all are out of luck. And so it's going to discourage the people at the bottom end of the spectrum if they feel like they are compared with the people that are out of their bracket. And so that absolutely matters. It can increase anxiety and stress. Um,
I was going to say, do you want an anecdotal comment to that or no?
yeah, sure, shoot.
Sweet. So I actually had someone tell me, I know I have absolutely no chance of doing well on this test. I'm just going to mark whatever answer I want.
Yep,
Like they just told me that. Like they probably actually did poor because they knew they weren't they weren't going to do well, but they didn't even try to see what they did know. So like I think that
right,
kind of the defeatist attitude that you're talking about, but just like I actually had someone actually tell me that. Like, what does it
absolutely.
matter?
Right, right. Like if I'm going into the test in school with an F or a D and I know I don't know the subject matter, I'm not going to pass this class. Why even read the questions? Like, what are we doing? So that's,
Yeah.
however, if you're going in with the C, then we have anxiety and stress, right? Then it's like, well, if I don't do well in this test, I could fail. Um, and so, once again, if the competition feels like, so a study on class competition noted that competition can hurt academic achievement by increasing learning anxiety. So even though it increases motivation, it can increase anxiety as well. Anxiety, obviously, then biologically is going to have lots of negative outcomes. So You have to set it up in a positive reinforcement manner where there's not humiliation, it's not overly penal, and it rewards, good competition while just rewarding, being fair and achievable for everyone, so that everyone feels like, okay, even if I don't win, I can get a good grade, and it matters how that I try. So that is, a bell curve, a normal bell curve where most of the students are getting punished because they're not the top 2%, I think is very detrimental. And I think schools have largely, and any teachers that are currently still using a normal bell curve, that not a one that is set by, where most of the class is. It's just, if I have one or two top achievers, and they are the ones that are getting rewarded and everyone else is getting punished, you're increasing anxiety and stress, which is going to have negative outcomes. Okay. It can reduce intrinsic motivation, obviously, depending on, uh, if the only thing that matters is the incentive, as opposed to, like Matt has said, if I'm swimming and I'm focusing on the rival that I can never beat, then I don't, I'm never going to win. I know that. As opposed to, I'm also caring about my time. Like, I have this underlying metric that's like, okay, this is meaningful, and I can achieve, improvement here, even if I don't constantly win. So, if you feel like competition is the only thing that matters, then there's decreased motivation overall. If you feel like there's multiple things and competition is one of the contributing factors, then it matters. So, um, let's see. Can be a damaged cooperation. So obviously, if you feel like I'm competing with so and so, therefore, if I get an edge, I'm not giving it to him here, or her. Then probably the whole thing is suffering. But if we're feeling like we have fair constructs, the rewards are nice, but they're not the main purpose. Then the competition benefits everyone. Then it's like, well, I can share it with them. I'm going to compete against them. We're going to see who's refined it well enough, and it doesn't matter who wins. The fact that we're both benefiting from it is what matters most. Um, so yeah. Let's see. Can encourage cheating and unethical behavior. Obviously, that's something that you constantly have to police for. Once again, setting up the competition to not overly reward, the single top competitors, and punish the bottom will create an environment where cheating is less motivated. So you want to make sure that people feel like cheating is both being monitored and matters, and that, like, everyone improving together is meaningful. Um, let's see. It can, once again, have people optimize for the wrong thing. If the only thing that matters is winning, then I'll go for someone's knees, right? Like, I'll tackle them, as opposed to, I want my time to be good. Like, so if we optimize for the wrong outcome, then once again, competition can become toxic. So we have to measure the right thing, and the right with the right incentives.
I feel like
Um,
the
yeah,
movie The Mighty Ducks is very instructional in this one, where
yes, quite.
they establish early on that the villain sets up his team where it's not worth playing if you can't win, and it's not worth winning if you can't win big, and that is like the wrong way to approach it. Whereas the ducks are like, well, never mind what the moral of that part is, but it is instructional that they
Right,
kind of illustrate that drive to win is and some of the negatives that come out of it.
right. Yeah, exactly. So you have to have this positive sense of community and reinforcement of good behaviors, comp without losing sight of competition. I
Yeah,
guess the whole idea behind this is, yes, there can be negative outcomes of competition and we've seen it, like Matt said, in Disney movies, where it becomes the only focus. Everything else doesn't matter. You don't matter. We got to win, as opposed to, It matters
Well,
that we compete because we're going to improve. However, everyone still matters, and we're going to improve together.
I mean, we can do real world example too. We can go Tanya Harding,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Unhealthy competition.
Unhealthy competition. Right.
and they turned that into a movie. So
Exactly. Yeah. So there's lots of movies about competition. Turns out competition sells well.
if,
But yeah,
if
I'm
I can't
so
win, I'll make everyone else lose.
right. So coming back to my business, which you should go to, visit the website, sign up. Even if
I would
I'm
go to
so
mine because it's better than Carl's.
uh,
Tim has the best out of all of us.
Tim did join us, by the way. For those of you
That's
that
right.
care, they're still
Hi,
listening.
everyone. All three of you.
I was here first.
Dang
That's true. Matt wins,
it.
so you all
I
lose.
lost, so I'm hanging up.
That's correct. You don't
That's
matter.
it.
Goodbye. You are the
All right.
weakest link. Um, okay, so the TruRace. TruRace is the name of the company, thetruerace.com. Once again, true without an E, TRURACE, so the TRURACE.com is this competitive platform. If you are a runner out there and you're listening to this, even if you're not, if you have any interest in ever being a triathlete, a runner, whatever else, competing, like I said, my experience, and I run and I swim and I do triathlons and stuff like that, is that as an adult, you just, unless you're the top one or half of a 1%, you're not going out to compete for a win ever anymore. I don't go to a race ever thinking I could win this. Because that's not going to happen. There are guys out there who compete and train constantly, who are full time in this, and so if I'm going to a big race, I'm not trying to win, and I miss that. And so that's the idea behind the TruRace, is that instead of just going to a race with the idea of, well, I'm going to get better. That's good. I want to get better, but I also want to compete. I want people that are around my level, like Matt talked about with swimming, and I want to be like, okay, hey, look, so and so's here. I'm racing against them. I know that we're close. We've gone back and forth. I'm going to get the win today. I've been training really hard. Um, and so that type of behavior and competitive aspect of it, I think, is something that currently running and triathlons and is completely missing. They have sometimes age group awards, but once again, it's all just random. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know how fast they're going to be, and so the idea here is you sign up. It goes with any race that'll have us. We'll be there, and you'll be put in a heat with other people of your approximate level, based on seed times, and you'll just go get to race, and then whoever wins does win a cash prize. Um, and so there is some motivation. Hopefully, it never becomes toxic, and if it doesn't, if it does, we'll have to change things. But the idea is that we want you to feel like you're competing in a meaningful way against other people that are around your level, so you can actually win. And winning will help you improve your training, help you improve your mindset, confidence, all those types of things. And so where there's fair competition, transparent competition between comparable levels of athletes, suddenly it's now a powerful motivation without having, hopefully, the negative downsides of, like, I can never win. This is the only thing that matters. We want just the idea. Once again, the reason I did this is because, for me personally, I like feeling like every second matters. Um, and when I'm going for a PR, the fastest I've ever gone, of course that matters. But it's not the same exact mentality of, I'm coming down the stretch right next to my rival. They're right there. I've got to beat them. Um, and that's there's a real psychological um, component to this, I think, that is very strong. Any insights for you guys?
I'm just wondering, can I pay extra to compete against the bad guy hockey team from the Mighty Ducks?
You may not.
Darn
You
it.
cannot do that. No. Uh,
No, I would just, on a serious note, I would agree with you that competition, it's changes the experience for a lot of us, I think. And so I think, anyways, it sounds like a cool concept.
Yeah, and I've got a few statistics. Once again, I'm a statistics guy. I want numbers to back me up. If my business is not working with the numbers, then trash it because it's not good. Um, in running, and they've done studies on this, there's a 50%, that's 50% dopamine spike when racing against someone that you know that is at your level.
Huh.
That's half again as much
But
fun.
you have to have that like that knowledge of the
You do.
person. Like
That's correct. Yes.
I know
If,
you and I want to beat you.
that's correct. If you
So,
don't know the individual, there probably is some measurable effect by just racing somebody, but it's
yeah,
not the same. It is not the
yeah.
same dopamine spike as opposed to I know that person. We might
And
be friends, we might not, but I know them and I'm going to beat them.
but Carl,
Right.
your idea is that you race, and over time you get familiar with different competitors. They're out
That's
there,
correct. Correct.
and so over time you get, hey, that's Jerry Bob 37,
Right.
and he
Right.
beat me last time, and so game on.
Right. Exactly. And
Okay.
because you're signing up on our website beforehand, even if you don't know a competitor going into that race, you'll look at your heat and you'll know the names of people and you can put profile pictures up and you can say, oh, I'll look out for so and so. They're right at my same time. They literally have the same 5K time as me. So when I get to the race, TruRace will be there. I'll be able to find that individual and be like, hey, we have the same time. Let's get after it. Um,
Ah.
and so that's this community behind it as well, is build that concept instead of just going to a race with one other friend who might not be at your level or might be way above your level. And that's fun, you should go with friends, but it's hard to find the same level of individual all the time. And we have a lot of lone wolf runners and triathletes out there, and that's great. That's sometimes for training, that's your only option, but in a race it should be different. You should be able to say, let's get at this together, and there's my rival, and let's feel like competition matters. So 50% dopamine spike, so I can promise you to have more fun. And then the other thing that really matters, obviously to everyone, like Matt said, your time matters. They've measured it is about a 4% performance increase by racing people you know. So 4% of your whatever your time
Huh.
is, you'll increase or decrease your time by 4% without any difference in training just by racing someone.
So you really do need to make the competition personal.
As much as it is possible, that is correct. Yep.
Can I
Although
talk
that
smack
doesn't mean
on the
like
website?
animosity.
Correct. Hopefully not animosity. Once again, I am not in for building a toxic racing environment. So if any of that starts happening, I'm going to try to curtail that as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
Hey,
But
hey,
no,
catchphrase, TruRace. Now it's personal. Hmm?
okay. Yeah. So
Can I say I'm going to beat you by 4%?
There you go.
Right. Some of our recent Instagram stuff we're putting out there, once again, like if you remember when Michael Phelps raced a shark, um,
What?
you don't
Yes.
remember
No, I
this?
do
Yes, I
not
do.
remember that.
It
I
wasn't
thought it was kind of
actually,
a dirty trick because it was a 100-meter sprint, and Shark never had a chance.
well, the shark won, but it
I could
wasn't even a
imagine.
real shark. It was a computer generated shark based on
Oh,
what they think sharks, the speed that sharks swim. So it's like
Oh, and
this, but they built it up for
so he would
Shark
have
Week.
never had like a chance to get to know the shark or anything.
Exactly. I mean, what kind of community can you build with a shark anyway? Um,
that's right.
Well, I mean, where's the true danger and fear that this tiger
Yeah,
Sure,
shark
that's right.
racing
is
in
going to
front of
eat
a
me?
shark, very different
Yeah,
feeling.
that's right. I'll bet there's another spike. Yeah, if there's like a hungry bear or shark behind you. Yeah, it's you should look
Yeah,
into that,
those are the
Carl.
special. Yeah, exactly. Those are the special. High, you have to pay more for that level of true race.
That's right. That's
It's
the
the
premium.
race against a bear.
Yeah, and you can get different levels. Like you get pack of coyotes, rabid weasel, and then moose,
Rabbit weasel.
bear, tiger.
Oh my. Okay. Well, that'll be, the next level of TruRace once we, really get off the ground and get our pilot, past our pilot. So anyway, right now, TruRace does not have rabid weasels, but we do have a pilot going on in Southern California. All you have to do is sign up. Let us know the race that you're going to do. We'll try to talk to the race organizers. Some of them are listening to us, some are not, but hopefully we can get traction with more race organizers and get into these races. And if you're already doing it, all you have to do is sign up. It's free. We'll put you in a heat. You'll race, and if you win, well, it's $200 right now. It might change, but and you get the competition level. You get the competitive aspect of it. You'll be in a heat against people that you could beat. And so that's the idea right now. Eventually, we'll have memberships and it'll be paid because I can't do everything for free, but that's our founding idea and our pilot. And so if you're not in Southern California and you want us to be in your city or in your state, we also have a place on our website to just fill that out, tell us what race, and we'll talk to those race organizers. And as we grow, we'll move there as well. So a competition is obviously something that I have loved my whole life, and so that's why I've decided that it's an important enough thing for me to try to incorporate in. I think adults' lives are often mundane, and I think it's nice to be able to race and hopefully in a very positive way be able to improve our lives that way. So, okay, that's the
Well, obviously, most of the people you associate with aren't underwater welders.
because that's not mundane. That's right. That's fair.
That's
The
right.
most One of the most dangerous jobs
But
ever,
have
right
you
there.
seen underwater welders racing? Because that's super exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah, they swim away from sharks all the time.
Racing rabid weasels in scuba gear.
Oh boy.
Derailed again.
Everyone get out, sign up for TruRace, compete, and do so in a positive, uplifting way.